A cordial greeting. Today is Sunday, June 14, 2026. This is meteorologist Ruben Garcia speaking. In this video, I will be discussing a low-pressure system that is currently located over the state of Tamaulipas in Mexico, and which maintains chances of tropical development as it moves parallel to or over the Texas coast. I will mainly discuss the possibility that this disturbance could strengthen as it moves across the southern United States, and models project that it could produce excessive rainfall totals and a high flood risk for portions of southeast Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. Therefore, it is important that residents in this area remain attentive to weather conditions due to the possibility of flooding during the next 5 days. Later, I will discuss some interesting projections in which some models forecast a significant strengthening of this low-pressure system over the southern United States. This is an extremely rare event because tropical low-pressure systems usually weaken once they move over land, with the exception of a few rare cases in which conditions can be favorable for the low-pressure system to remain strong over land. I will discuss whether there is actually a possibility that a tropical depression or tropical storm could form over the southern states of the United States. Now then, in the latest tropical outlook from the National Hurricane Center, the chances of development were increased to 30% just southeast of Texas, where there is a possibility that a tropical depression or tropical storm could form if the low-pressure system manages to move over water. However, if it remains farther to the left over Texas territory, it will be more difficult for a tropical depression to form. Therefore, the future track of this low-pressure system will definitely be key to the possibility of development of the first cyclone of the Atlantic hurricane season. At the moment, and as you can see in the infrared satellite animation, the low-pressure system remains disorganized, especially because it is moving over land and across the northern half of the state of Tamaulipas. But notice that the moisture flow and wind current from the Gulf are already producing some heavy showers across portions of South, Southeast, and East Texas, and the rainfall should continue during the next 3 to 4 days, and then move into portions of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. Now let us talk about why some models strengthen this low-pressure system once it is over land, and this may be caused mainly by two factors. One of them is what we know as baroclinic processes and the other is the effect known as the brown ocean effect. Regarding the baroclinic effect, we refer to the fact that, as you can see in this image, during the next few days a jet stream will become established in the upper levels of the atmosphere across the central and southern United States, and this causes divergence in the upper levels of the atmosphere, creating significant instability and potentially favoring the formation and strengthening of low-pressure systems located south of the jet stream under extremely rare conditions. However, as we have seen in the past, conditions of moisture, heat, and saturated soils can create favorable conditions for tropical cyclones to maintain their intensity or even intensify over land. For example, we saw this with Tropical Storm Erin in 2007, which moved into Texas and then across Oklahoma, where it managed to strengthen. In fact, to give you an idea, this is what the Doppler radar image looked like near the city of Oklahoma City on August 19, 2007, when what was then Tropical Depression Erin was moving through the region, and this cyclone produced excessive rainfall totals between the city of El Reno and Oklahoma City. Wind gusts of over 80 miles per hour were reported, along with maximum rainfall totals of up to 10 inches. I want you to look at what the global models are projecting, beginning with the American model, which interestingly strengthens the low-pressure system over South Texas, that is, over land, and most likely due to baroclinic processes, which create divergence in the upper levels of the atmosphere, providing the necessary ventilation for the low-pressure system to at least remain strong as it moves across East Texas. Then, between Wednesday and Thursday, the remnants would move across the southern states of the United States. I want you to look at the projection of the infrared satellite image, where during the night on Monday it develops an area of strong convection over northern Tamaulipas and southern Texas, and moves it parallel to the Texas coast until Wednesday night, when it moves across Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. Now I will show you a very interesting scenario presented by the European model, which at the moment is unlikely. In this case, the European model, like the American model, strengthens the low-pressure system over South Texas. But unlike the American model, it shows an extraordinary strengthening over land in northern Louisiana and over Mississippi. And in its latest runs, it has a tropical storm moving through Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. Now, do not be alarmed, because the European model has a bias toward developing strong low-pressure systems when high moisture conditions exist across the southern United States, which means that this scenario is extremely unlikely. In addition, it is very interesting that the United Kingdom model also strengthens the low-pressure system once it is over the states of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. However, Remember that the United Kingdom model solves parameters that are derived from the European model. It is important to emphasize that it is very likely that this scenario will not occur, although significant rainfall totals are expected, which we will discuss shortly. Residents of North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana can remain calm for now. In fact, when we look at the ensemble runs of the American model, none of them develops even a tropical depression. Meanwhile, in the case of the European model ensemble members, although some do develop a tropical depression or tropical storm, they all do so over the waters of the Gulf and rule out the possibility of strengthening over land. We see the same thing in the projection from Google's artificial intelligence model, where only one member develops a tropical depression, but it does so over Gulf waters and before moving into Louisiana. Regardless of what happens during the next few days, significant rainfall totals and some flooding are expected. When we look at the accumulated rainfall forecast from the American model from Monday through Thursday, it shows excessive rainfall totals across South and Southeast Texas and Louisiana, with widespread totals between 4 and 6 inches, but some locations may receive more than 12 inches, especially near or over the city of Houston. The heaviest rainfall for this area is expected between Wednesday and Thursday. Meanwhile, the accumulated rainfall forecast from the European model generally also agrees with widespread totals between 4 and 6 inches between Wednesday and Thursday, and in some portions of Louisiana or East Texas, totals of over 8 to 10 inches. For Thursday and Friday, as the low-pressure system moves across portions of Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia, the American model projects rainfall totals between 4 and 6 inches across portions of central and southern Mississippi and Alabama. The European model also agrees with rainfall totals for these areas between 4 and as much as 8 inches. Therefore, it is definitely very important that residents along the Texas coast, all of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and South Carolina remain attentive to weather conditions and to the evolution of this low-pressure system. It is certainly a very interesting atmospheric phenomenon, and we will see what happens and whether the European model is indeed incorrect in its solution, as we suspect. Well, I will keep you informed. So if you enjoy this content, it is important that you give it a like. Also, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so that you receive notifications whenever I record new videos. I hope everyone has an excellent start to the week. See you later.